And in light of 3 major crashes in less than 2 weeks, we can't help but wonder, how safe is it to fly? The question comes up.
Well, helping to answer that question is aviation analyst Paul Hedlund. Mr. Hedlund, thank you for joining us tonight. So let's address the problem, if there is one, with an aging fleet. Now, we know this plane was a C-8 plane, 20 years old. Is that a major factor, and why it could have gone down, sir?
Well, I think so. Actually, it was 30 years old. It was placed in service in 1967, apparently. And when you get a plane that old, and from the service difficulty reports that I read, it looks like the bulkheads have cracked in the past and disabled the webbing that's attached to them. Now, that webbing usually holds the cargo in place, and this sounds like the kind of an accident that could be caused by the cargo shifting its location.
In the case of a cargo plane where you have 80,000 pounds, if I'm correct, if not, please correct me, of equipment on board this plane, or cargo, if you will, what happens if it were to shift?
Well, if it shifts aft, which is the shifting that you would expect when an aircraft is accelerating down the runway. Don't forget, everything has momentum and it tries to stay in the same place. So it will try to continue at its resting speed, or 0 speed, as the aircraft propels faster and faster, and it will be forced backwards. So if the webbing gives and the 80,000 pounds goes back, even though this is a 350,000 pound aircraft, it will cause an imbalance that will be catastrophic.
And Mr. Hedlund, also it's probably important to mention that a plane that's 30 years old isn't really 30 years old from nose to tail. There is a process that they go through in sort of partially rebuilding them as the years pass, correct?
Well, that's correct, but when you look at what they replace, that is usually all rotating parts, and they keep emphasizing that the rotating parts are replaced. But it's the non-rotating parts, it's the structural members, it's the bulkheads. Pieces like that are not replaced, and they're also very difficult to test.
We know that a new warning system has been approved by the FAA, and this would reportedly give pilots a 1-minute warning before the plane were to hit. I want to ask you, is that 1-minute warning enough? Could it have prevented a crash? I mean, is that enough time for a pilot to actually make some kinds of changes? Is it necessary?
Oh, a minute's quite a bit of time. That's a great piece of equipment, too. That's a wonderful piece of equipment, but it only helps in C-fit type of accidents, controlled flight into terrain, and like Collie, for example, it would have helped, but this case wouldn't have done anything.
All right. Paul Hedlund, thanks very much for coming in, and appreciate your insights on what we've been going through here for the last few weeks.
Very good information. Thanks, Mr. Hedlund.
You're welcome.